Well, fuck you, Shima. Fuck you. Let's talk about this global atrocity that is happening with the Fukushima disaster and the information that we're just not receiving as the public. Let's talk. So, on March 11th, 2011, the Tohoku earthquake triggered a tsunami that then hit Japanese coastline, and the waves went high enough to breach the wall surrounding the Fukushima nuclear power plant, and it created a catastrophe, as many of you know. It flooded the nuclear reactors and caused the equipment to shut down. Coolants weren't running. An explosion happened and then proceeded to set the whole fucking thing ablaze, basically. And it's not exactly the explosion itself, it's the fallout and the aftermath and how it's being dealt with and the controversy with feeling like information's being covered up. There's so many things that have come about after the actual event that are more concerning than the event itself in my eyes, because we're finding out that some of the people in charge of helping us receive the correct information and also taking care of cleanup are lying flat out. So let's talk about what exactly is being said. So after the event occurred, the Japanese government and TEPCO, the organization that was in charge of maintaining the quality and structure of the power plant, released statements stating a bunch of varying figures and statistics and information in general. And they were talking about major reasons why the material, the radioactive material, was released into the ocean in the first place. They blamed most of it on uncontrolled events. However, they did also advise that there was venting and discharging of coolant waters, which included radioactive materials, so purposefully dumping into the Pacific Ocean, all of which still doesn't really have much truth. We put ourselves in a very scary place as people when we just accept people's bullshit for answers to questions we all have. This is a very serious issue, and we have every right to demand facts and truth, especially the people in Japan right now suffering, with this happening right around them. I can only imagine. However, it is reaching our coastlines. As of recent, many articles, often by independent journalists, are stating that not only is a huge radioactive plume on its way to the North American West Coast, it's already here. We already have radioactive poisoning of water and wildlife in the sea that we're detecting, and nobody's talking about it. Nobody is relating those problems that they're finding on the west coast of these United States to that of the Fukushima radioactive poisoning of the Pacific Ocean. It's creepy that our own government doesn't want to warn us as the people who swim on the west coast and the people who eat food out of the west coast. I mean, anyone in the fishing industry would want to be made aware of all of this. However, even the people consuming it, can you think of the sushi and tuna is being tested with really high amounts of radioactive poisoning? It's scary that people aren't talking about it. I read an article where the fruit down in Florida, the citrus fruit, is contaminated with radioactive poisoning from Fukushima. They can prove that due to the half-lives of some of the isotopes that were produced, like cesium-137, which has a half-life of a little over 30 years. That means it's with us for 30 years before it starts breaking down. We have no say in that. It is going to be in our products that we ingest, some of the water that we take in. I mean, this is a serious issue, and it's freaky that every time you read articles about people and environmentalists who want to bring this to the public's attention, they're usually attacked or threatened with death. It's insane. We, as a people, need to watch each other's back and make sure that the truth and this correct information is given to everybody. I mean, why hide this? Why hide the fact that radioactive material is in our water? And why hide the fact that it's predicted by Norway that in 2017 we are going to be hit on the west coast with a large plume of radioactive mass? And once it does that, it's not going to just disperse and leave, it's going to disperse up the coast. So it's going to head north and south of wherever it hits. So Canada will be affected as well. I don't know how far into South America it's going to lead. I mean, this is a really big deal. It's affecting many nations, many continents, for crying out loud. And where are the people being held accountable? How come that isn't tabloid fodder for days? How come we aren't demanding heads to roll? I can only imagine the devastation that Fukushima, Japan is experiencing. People haven't been allowed to move back to their homes. They've been uprooted. This is a serious issue, and yet there's so many issues, right? There's the environmental, there's the displacement of people, there's the health factors. I mean, radioactivity is nothing to fuck around about. I mean, there's iodine in this stuff, there's cesium-137 and 134, and we also have to take into consideration the strontium, which also has a half-life of 30 years, and they're detecting that in samples of the groundwater and soil still, so it's still being released into the ocean in Fukushima. Take, for example, August 20th of 2013, when TEPCO released statements assuring the public that leaks were handled and the half-lives of most of the radioactive materials that had ended up in the Pacific Ocean were already reached. But that actually is not the case, because we're finding out that they have mostly 30-year half-lives. So obviously they're going to be around for a couple more decades, and that's a serious issue. And also they stated that 700 metric tons of a tub of contaminated radioactive water had spilled back into the Pacific Ocean. So how much do you want to take TEPCO's word for being truthful? I mean, seriously, when organizations like this prove themselves to be untrustworthy, we need to yank them from their position. I mean, why, when we see organizations littered with criminal activity and obvious cover-ups, why are we allowing them to be in charge? I feel like this is madness. Like, us millennials and the younger generations need to step up and take over some of the responsibility and authority that these adults can't seem to handle. How in the world is it that hard to tell this organization, Tokyo Electric Power Company, that they are no longer allowed at this facility because they have clearly showed that after 5 years of fucking incompetence, they are no longer in charge of making sure the public is safe. I mean, there have been stories that are alleging that TEPCO is using duct tape to secure some of the leaks. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? Do we just not care? Do we just not care about the world? Do we not care about our safety? The fact that we're going to go extinct if we keep this up. I mean, this is fucking ridiculous. How in the world is it needed for kids such as myself to make opinion-pieced videos regarding serious topics that affect the whole world? Why in the fuck is that needed? Where in the hell did we screw up? Right? Why is it needed for me to make a video saying, oh my god, the atrocities? Why isn't the media talking about this? Why isn't it being handled better? How in the world is Fukushima not the attention of the globe right now, making sure that we have it under control? It is still leaking radioactive material into your water, into your ocean, onto your aquatic life. We have no idea the amount of aquatic animal life this has fucking tortured. The ocean floor has to be littered with dead species that I can't even imagine. I can't imagine. And we're allowing people in the fucking fossil fuel industry and people making money off of this shit, we're allowing them to speak on our behalf. Oh, that siren is just representing the chaos in my fucking head right now. Let's let it pass. On July 5th of 2012, Japanese National Diet appointed NAIIC to submit a report on the findings, and it stated that this was a man-made disaster. Obviously, cesium is a isotope that is man-made. I think it hadn't occurred on Earth for like 1.7 billion years. Look it up, it's fascinating. I mean, the isotopes involved in nuclear fission are fascinating to me. I mean, that's really cool. It just sucks to know that men shouldn't be allowed to fucking play with it, right? But anyways, they also released a statement saying that everything that happened at Fukushima was absolutely preventable, with many, many reports stating that the equipment needed updating. GE, General Electric, was actually the company to provide the equipment, and then TEPCO was the organization to maintain it. So, culpability. Let's make sure that GE says something, shall we? It's their product that was casing the nuclear material. Step up, release a statement, talk, send some funding, do fucking something. I'm so tired of these fucking organizations and companies who have billions and they can't be fucking bothered to help in this awful, awful time. It's always the fucking grunt workers, the slaves. We always have to clean up after that 1% mess, and it's fucking obnoxious. When are we gonna shut up and start taking action? When are we gonna stop blaming each other and having these fucking arguments on YouTube and Facebook and all of these blogospheres talking about how, no, it's your fault, no, it's your fault, they need to take care of it, we need to do something, blah, blah, blah. But instead, why don't we stand up to the people who are committing these atrocities onto humanity? Why don't we say something? Why don't we, as a people, demand that we end nuclear power along with fossil fuels? Why in the fuck are we still dependent on big oil? I was watching a video, which was also a thought I've had since I was fucking 7, talking about how if a country would just take action and not go to a gas station for 1 week, you would bring oil to its knees and they would come to the negotiating table. And yet nobody talks of it because big oil has lobbyists that control Washington. And yet we have representatives like Bernie Sanders telling us that, and we're so dumb and so tuned into TV and making sure that we follow orders that we don't say anything, we don't do anything. We're worthless. We're worthless at this point. What are we going to do to make life better? That's the main question from all this. This is a disaster, people. It's a disaster whether you want to face it, whether you want to believe it, whether you want to take blame for it. It doesn't matter. It happened. It's going to happen again. This shit is bananas, B-A-N-A-N-A-S, and we can't handle it ourselves. This is something outside of our scope of reality. We don't know what we're doing. I deem like nuclear power and stuff like that same along the lines of the internet. We don't know what the fuck we're doing. We're experimenting, and it's in the hands of the wrong people right now. It is in the hands of the wrong people. And sidebar, honestly, I just want to throw out to the douchebag of the fucking millennia, Graham Templeton, who works over at Geek. I'm not sure if it's a magazine or just a shitty website of horrible news information. However, his opinion piece, which I hope that's what it's fucking claiming to be, was stating that us overreacting over Fukushima was idiotic, and how he is pushing blame onto environmentalists and bloggers talking up the dangers of radioactive materials being in our oceans. Is this kid for fucking real? It is a problem. Are you fucking a man-made radioactive material being poured onto the land and into a major ocean around the world, and it's now leaking onto different continents? You don't think that's a problem? Oh, okay. Like, let's take your word, you fucking idiot. Oh my god, people like that. I don't know how they're given the ability to send out their ideas on pen and paper to the masses. I mean, he needs to be fired and removed from his position and never allowed to work for a news organization ever again. I mean, Geek should be appalled at what he's saying. He had some quotes in here pushing blame on the environmentalists, but also not even bringing up TEPCO or GE. And all of this shows is that most of our journalists out there reporting on these issues do not know how to do the main thing that makes you a good journalist, which is research. I mean, seriously, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with misinformists, along with the people in power having a wicked heart. We don't know who to trust, so good luck to us, I guess. Anyway, another really weird fucking thing is a group in Japan was trying to get a tourist destination out of Fukushima after this all fucking happened. Like, are people fucking what? After the, oh yeah, come get radiation poisoning, come, it's still leaking into the ocean, but we're pretending it isn't, come, let's play. Like, wow, I can't with this video. This is insanity to me. Wow. And here again, in February of 2014, TEPCO releases a statement saying levels of 5 million plus becquerels of strontium per liter have been released as to date, and that's only going up. I mean, people have been releasing statements showing that TEPCO has just not been honest, and the only way to hold them accountable is to force them into honesty. This has been documented by independent researchers. Google it, you'll find it easily. TEPCO is not to be trusted. I cannot believe they are in charge of getting us the information of what's going on there. Again, put pressure on these people. This is insane. This is your world. This is your world. You live in it. Take control. Like, you have every right to know what's going on. Governments and companies have no right to keep this stuff secret. They have absolutely no right. They're buying their secrecy, and it is not fair to humanity. It is no longer something we should tolerate. We need to speak out and speak in mass with a loud, clear voice telling them what we will not accept and what we demand to change, because we have every right to do that. We have every right to do that. Being sentient beings here on Earth, we have just as much right as anybody else, no matter the dollar, no matter the color of your skin, no matter the location of your home on this planet. This is your planet. Just know that and stop taking it for granted, because it's one world, people, and you get one life. So make sure you're speaking up for yourself and the people around you and the safety that we all deserve, because this is insanity. Just a couple more things I wanted to bring up. On September 10th, 2015, without fail, TEPCO releases a statement saying, whoops, another tsunami's floodwaters breached the Fukushima wall and was able to carry out radioactive material back into the Pacific Ocean, along with bags full of radioactive soil and grass. So that's good. And just a year ago, another hundreds of metric tons of radioactive material released into the Pacific Ocean. Well, I'm sure that is just no big deal, according to Graham Templeton, right? Fucking idiot. And then the last thing I want to say is probably the most obvious, especially with the day and age we live, that a lot of independent journalists and people who really want the truth, who seek the truth, people who don't even call themselves journalists but just demand knowing what is real, they're reporting having their lives threatened or being harassed by people with money and people with stuff to gain with this staying under wraps. And just know that that's out there. I have no idea like what journalists. I couldn't give you names or anything. I didn't find any specifics. I'm just saying, like, that's information us as the public needs to know. Why are things trying to be covered up? What exactly is going on? Because let's face the facts, just knowing that radioactive poison material is floating around in our ocean, it doesn't make any of us feel safe, right? Because it makes me think, well, I live on the West Coast and I would love to be able to swim in the Pacific Ocean this summer, because even though it's not exactly Southern Cali temp warm, it's really fun and it's exciting to know you're swimming in the ocean. It's alive. It's just really cool. And now I question, do I want to? So, I mean, the fact that I have to question that, it sucks. And I'm not even trying to have a pity party for my damn self, because I don't really care that much. I'm thinking about the rest of the world, people who are impacted by this far more than my comfortable West Coast life, where I have to wonder if my tropical fruits and my ocean waters are going to be okay for me to swim in. There are people who are dying. There are cancer increases that are going to spike within the decade from this. And people want to turn a blind eye to it because they don't want to face the consequences of what they did. And this is what's happening. They're trying to make it sound like, oops, if people were going to have cancer, they'd have it by now. No, that's not how it works. In Chernobyl, I think scientists detected that cancer would take up to a decade to start showing. They're thinking that, God, I'm trying to remember what they said. I think it was lymphatic cancer or thyroid. It was thyroid cancers are going to be a huge increase in Japan. And I think they're already finding that's happening. And that's just really, really sad. And remember, this isn't isolated to just Japan. I mean, radioactive materials have a way of finding their way around the globe. Whether it's through the air, through the water, through the animals, they're going to affect everybody. And that's something we need to start realizing. This is not a problem for the people it's affecting right now. It's a problem for the world. And just because you're not seeing it on the daily today doesn't mean you won't in a year or 2 years or 5. So let's pay attention, figure out what we can do, because we can stop this from happening again. Because it will if we don't pay attention. I mean, oil spills are happening left and right. That's another problem. We need to start taking care of this. And for people who tell you that nuclear energy is a good, safe alternative to fossil fuels and stuff, it isn't. A good, safe alternative is solar or wind or something that if a power plant fucking went down in shambles, it's not going to kill the wildlife that lives around it. I mean, that's insanity. So we need to think of more clever ideas for our future generations. We need to stop being such a stunted people because our egos are so bruised. Stop being affected by everybody's everything. Let people speak, because really smart people have really good things to say. And far too often, especially in this country, we are listening to the stupid. And it is okay to say that because stupid people exist. And we need to be able to educate them, not listen to their education and fall backwards. Like, we don't need to revert back to what we used to be as a civilization. We need to move forward, because we are not even close to being a self-reliant, humble, harmonious, loving society, and we need a lot of work. And myself included, not trying to preach, I'm just saying what I feel, and what I feel is stuff I need to do myself. So don't think I'm pushing this on to others. It's absolutely something we as a collective, we as a people need to do. And let's think about that going forward. I want to send out my love to anyone affected by this Fukushima fuck up. And honestly, besides keeping yourself as safe as possible, the only thing I can think to say is keep speaking the truth. Keep representing what you see and what you hear and what you know to be truthful, because the rest of humanity needs to hear it. Anyway, I don't want to keep up the diatribe of me complaining about where our civilization is headed unless we take action too long. So with that being said, peace out and take care of yourselves, for real.